You have a question right here?
I do have.
There's a young man in the rear who I must get to. Then that lady in the leather jacket and the lady over there. All right. Now y'all got to help me remember what I said.
I do have a question, but I wanted to piggyback on what was said. At 15, my mother died. My father died when I was 8. And we were stair-stepped, 7 children at home. I had no hope. And I went to school, and this fantabulous teacher, Mona Rinsler, in Passaic, New Jersey, I wish I knew where she was today so she could see what she birthed in me. She said to me, I am your mother, and I want you to do everything you're going to do for me. I believe in you, and you're going to be somebody. Well,
that's it.
She did it.
That's right.
And I did it for her, not knowing that she was pouring herself into me, and the Lord bless me.
That's right.
My question, thank you. My question to the panel is, or my statement to the panel is, Reverend Gamble, you mentioned briefly the issue of what's called special education classification. Most of our black students are being targeted or labeled and thrown into this classification. Can someone tell me what is the success ratio of the children being able to succeed from this program? Are there any stats on it? How is it? I think I'm having questions. Is it dangerous to put them in it? What is the behavioral / educational dynamic that we should be looking at?
Reverend Gamble, I think you got to go first.
Okay. Well, I think that exactly just the way your question is framed speaks to how we have to educate more on special education. Special education is not just one program or one system. Special education is a multi-layered program which involves a series of environments for kids, which means that upon a determination that a student is not working to his or her potential, and that potential can be, just from my own personal experience, having a son with ADHD who walked into kindergarten reading, but yet is classified because he was not performing at his potential, though he walked in well above grade level, because he didn't like the neurologist performed below a certain standard. So and I'm saying that to say there's so many variables that involve themselves in a child's eligibility, that in the range of services can move from being fully included in a classroom with support to being placed into another environment for learning. So, as I said, I mean, this is not even a panel question. This is a whole nother panel over a series of time. Okay, so we can't even touch the surface. The success rate, I guess, is determined. The success rate is that the majority of students who have the proper diagnosis, the proper placement, and receive the proper services become successful. So there's 3 pieces. If they're misdiagnosed or shouldn't be diagnosed at all, if they're placed in an environment that is convenient for the district to save money and not best for the child, and thirdly, if they are placed in the right environment with the right diagnosis, but do not have a committed educator, administrator, etc., who are giving them the services that their IEP, their individualized education plan, tells us should be in place. Any of those 3 things are compromised, that child's success is at risk. So when we deal with special education, we're dealing with a multi-leveled system that if parents are not educated, so we get back to that piece, if teachers and staff are not educated properly, then that child's education is at risk. As I said, the reason why suburban parents run to it is because they understand their rights, and they will sue you and everybody else to make sure that their kid gets that right. So that's why the kids in that and those particular settings are more successful, and it doesn't become a stigma. And our community has historically been the place we drop kids when we figure out we can't deal with them anymore.
Dr. Boone, did you have something you want to add to that?
Well, I was going to add a point not related, well, indirectly related to it. One of the things that I feel that we need to do more of, it is guided by, I think it was Plato who wrote, was among the first to make the recognition that God has given all of us a special talent. We're born with something that makes us special. And we need to spend more time, I believe, encouraging our children to think about and talk about and focus on what makes them special. Okay? And in so doing, get the children to feel much better about themselves.
Thank you. Young man, your question.
My 4 years in public school at 13th Avenue School, there were only actually a handful of teachers there and staff that actually encouraged the students to excel. And when I went to my mom's school, I saw the same thing. And my question is, do you believe there is an issue within the school system about encouraging the kids?
Can I take it?
Please.
Okay. I'm going to calm myself down, you know, because Marian Wright Edelman, my boss, says all the time that people who do not love children should not be in education. And we have people who are in education for jobs, not because they love children. We do have gyms, and they're great, wonderful, you know, teachers. They're great, wonderful schools. But the experience that you describe, I hear so often from young people who are sort of meandering. And in New York City, if I could just speak contextually, who are meandering through the public school system in the midst of adults who make more money than their parents, and who are not even cognizant of the names of the children who are in their building. And so young people, you know, your first experience is you walk through a metal detector, and you go into this big, humongous school. People don't even really know your name, where you have more police officers than you have guidance counselors. And we wonder why it is that we have created these school-to-prison pipelines instead of school-to-success pipelines. But I would say to you, you know, for the one, the two that you find in your midst, you know, again, going back to my fantasy, if I could live my life over again, say thank you to them. Thank you to them. Because they need to be encouraged also. Because they're going against a grain in their own peer group of people who are just, they're going with the flow, they're going through the motions, and they don't stop to see the incredible gift that they have in their hands, the opportunity to help shape and mold, you know, the young people in the next generation. You know, so stop and thank the one or two who have acknowledged you as a person, as a human being, who has encouraged you. And maybe, you know, they will then, in their own, peer pressure is great, in every age group. You know, so maybe then they will kind of get their peers together. But listen, I listened to my daughter, who was in a public middle school. So 8 classes. She says that there are two teachers that she really thinks, you know, care about her. Now I can either take her out of that school, or I can do what I am doing, which is showing up every day and advocating for all of the kids in that school. And that's atrocious. That's absolutely atrocious, especially since I think that my 6th grader is an absolutely adorable child. Everybody should love her.
That was a comprehensive response, and because of the time constraints we face, I'm going to let you respond, Janine.
I'm going to be very, very quick.
And then the questions, please, questions that will succeeding, please be brief. Yes.
I'm going to be very, very quick. First of all, I'm going to say to you, young man, that you're very courageous to stand up here today. And the other thing I will say that I want to mimic what the Reverend said here, because I'm a former teacher, and I remember when I taught high school, I taught English, of course, that most kids hated, and I used to just wait, enthusiastically wait for these kids to show up every morning at my door, hug them as they came in, and I knew when they were having bad days, I knew when things were rough at home. I cared about things other than what they did in American and English Lit. And I would say to you that if you can find just 2 or 3 teachers in your building who seem as though they love you as a person, cling to them. In every school environment, find them. Because you know what? Every school has them. It may not be a whole lot. You may have 150 teachers in one building. You're going to find 3 to 5 teachers who really, really care. Hang on to them. They will be the people that when you're older, you will stand up in a setting like this and say, I wish I knew where he or she is, because I'd like them to see the difference they made in my life.
Basketball court. If you want to cook, you have to write up what the menu is supposed to be about and be able to explain it. And with a lot of kicking and screaming from some of the faculty, but with a lot of support from most of the faculty, they were able to drag this university, they were able to drag this high school into the 21st century, so much so that the grades that the children get are now better than what the grades are in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where the most high and most expensive educational institutions are of that level. So that's what I would say would be my specific model. I have a problem with when we don't look at things long distance like they did. They knew what were the ingredients. They knew it's going to take a long time. They knew it relied upon teachers. They knew they had to deal with the union, which they did. All of these teachers are unionized. This is not a non-union production. They knew that it was not going to be a private enterprise. This is not a charter school. This is a regular public school. And for that, I give them a lot of congratulations.
Terrific. Brompton, by the way, was featured in a front page article in the New York Times, and that is not easily come by. Anybody else want to talk about a model? Yes. Seal? And then John.
Well, we do have a model preschool here in New Jersey. We have a preschool program in public schools in partnership with community programs, Head Start programs. It's a high quality program, clear high expectations for children, developmentally appropriate, research-based curriculum with proven results. We're serving 40,000 children in New Jersey in this program, full day for 3 and 4-year-olds. It is a national model. People look to us for this program.
How do you measure success?
Well, I measure success first there have been some longitudinal studies right here in New Jersey, some here in Newark. So people who don't believe the long-term research about the importance of early care and education, high-quality early learning, have research right here. We have the National Institute for Early Education Research at Rutgers that's doing a longitudinal study on children and looking at the gains they make at kindergarten entry, first, second, third grade. In their literacy skills, their math skills, their social and emotional development, they've made great strides. Preschool, however, as someone described to me, is not an inoculation. You don't get preschool and you're set for life. It has to be followed by, as Julian said, a very strong early literacy program from kindergarten through third grade and built upon. To me, I think we have 2 things going for us in our preschool model. One is we have a great start for kids, proven through research. And second, the elements, the components of preschool that make it successful, I think are applicable to the later grades as well. When we got involved in preschool, we looked at it in terms of how can we integrate preschool into the K-12 system. Now I would